You got zucked again. Yeah, that's right. Zuckerberg's laying out a new special ad category specifically for the health and wellness segment, and in addition to that, and more importantly, the financial services category. Now, financial services has historically been defined to be really credit, and it's expanded now. It includes info products that talk about making money, as an example. I've seen insurance companies impacted by this, and not insurance companies that are selling some type of financial instrument to a consumer, but people who are trying to recruit people into their insurance companies and organizations. I've seen this and this is kind of shocking since they have a special ad category for actually hiring people, but just talking about making money in general for some kind of job or piece of content can get your account flagged and categorized under this new financial special ad category. So whether it was the health and wellness or whether it's the financial special ad category, back in December of 2024, there were some rumors that were going around from high-level reps warning high-level advertisers that these impending restrictions were coming. Those restrictions have officially started rolling out. You may have gotten notice just recently via email or potentially an in-account notification that you are going to have to update your campaigns and that your current campaigns are going to move into a rejected status here shortly, and you're going to have to move into this special ad category. So in this video, we're going to be talking about how this relates to hitting seven-figure months, maintaining seven-figure months in the instance that you're already there and this has happened to you. We're of course gonna go through all the best practices as it relates to this, what to do, what not to do, how to kind of work around it a little bit, and just how to make sure that you continue to get rich people through your funnels to convert at a high rate and not have this impact you like it will for a lot of uneducated people that are gonna get smacked upside the head by this crazy restriction. So if you're new to the channel, welcome in. My name's Jeremy Haynes. All we talk about around here is hitting $1 million months. We take all the lessons from the currently 41 different businesses that we've helped hit $1 million months, and we hand them down to you here on YouTube. We do not make income claims. I'm not sitting here telling you you're gonna hit $1 million a month. I'm just taking all the lessons from the people that we've worked with and handing them down to you here on YouTube, so hopefully you can do something with it to improve your life and business. If you're already a subscriber, welcome back. This one's really important. Make sure you pay attention. So let's dive in. This new financial special ad category is generally made aware to you via an email notification. You may have seen it in the most recent couple days or couple weeks, and there's an unknown time frame associated with when this officially rolls out and all of the ads get rejected. How did we get here? How did we end up in this position? Well, of course, somebody sued Facebook. So it is all to do with a set of regulations that exist that are all about anti-discriminatory practices for health and wellness. It relates to HIPAA, but for the financial stuff, it mainly just relates to anti-discriminatory practices. It mainly used to just be for credit, to be clear, but since then it's kind of expanded and rolled out beyond that. Facebook doesn't just impose crazy rules and restrictions or rejections onto us as advertisers. It's mainly some type of government entity or body that are imposing these regulations on us, and the vessel and the tool in which they do so is through the ad platforms, in this case through Facebook and Instagram. So the financial special ad category is nothing crazy. You have to just understand it and how it works in order to think with how to work around it. So from an anti-discriminatory perspective, if you get placed into any kind of special ad category, the visible things that happen is you lose some targeting options. You generally lose the ability to target by age. In certain instances, you lose the ability to target by location. For the financial special ad category, you get restricted on age, you get restricted on location, you get restricted on detailed targeting information, you lose demographics as an example, you lose the ability to pick genders, you lose a lot of stuff. So the three main categories that you get the opportunity to target in a regular algorithm setup are behaviors, demographics, and interests. Okay, and in order, by the way, it's demographics, interest, and behaviors. In the financial special ad category, keep in mind the intention. Okay, the intention for what they're trying to do is prevent you as the advertiser from discriminating on only getting a certain demographic through, which, as we all know, we want. So we want to make sure, as an example for almost all our high ticket products and services that we actively market for, that we are getting rich people through them who are financially qualified to actually purchase. When you put an ad in front of somebody who is not qualified, which is what this version of the algorithm will do, you're going to have a bad time because you're going to essentially have a higher cost to reach the rich people that you're otherwise going to be able to target. And you're going to have ads put in front of, forcefully by the way, people who are otherwise not even probable to convert, just for the fact that Facebook's trying to prevent getting sued from discriminating towards a higher qualified demographic or just any demographic in general. This is like the DEI equivalent of an algorithm. They are trying to get an equal amount of reach across each different demographic subtype that exists. Okay, that's a main reason behind this existing, especially in the financial ad category. Now, originally back in December, all the reps, they were saying that there was going to be an appeal process to this. That, obviously if you had something like a course that was teaching people to make money or some type of service that just helps people make more money and you use hooks and messaging to relay that to people, even if you just have ads that in general talk about like financial qualifications of an individual, or you have questions inside of your lead forms or inside of your applications as it relates to financial status, that can all be what compartmentalizes you into this new financial special ad category. So you got to know the triggers first of all. What triggers it, okay? What makes you go into this in the first place? Naturally, it is words, okay? And it has always been words. The words that you use in your ads, and I'm talking like the body copy, the headlines, what you say inside of your videos. I'm very surprised, by the way, that it's 2025 and some people still don't understand how crawlers work and how these auditing systems work. They know every single thing you fucking say inside of your VS. Like sometimes people ask me dumbass questions like,
hey, does the algorithm that, runs inside of Facebook, does the AI inside of Facebook or the ad platform go and watch my BSL? Like, can I say non-compliant shit there, but compliant stuff in the ads? It's like,
no, dude, they know all of it. Okay, they know all of it really well. Sometimes they'll even go as far, by the way, as having human beings opt into your funnel and then audit your email marketing that's associated with it as well. But they generally only do that at really high levels of spend. Anyway, what triggers it? Body copy, headlines, what you say inside of the ads, what questions you ask and what you say inside of your forms, what you say on your landing pages, what you say on your landing page videos, what you say inside of your landing page applications, etc. Okay? All those different words are currently being audited and compartmentalizing you via an AI system in real time to put you into this category and tell you that you are going to be flagged. So a few things that generally trigger it, and again, I'm not going to give you like a fucking master list of all the specific words. That's for paid students like people in my Inner Circle program where we do our twice a month one-on-one calls, weekly group calls, quarterly in-person masterminds. Our Telegram group full of rich people that are gonna be a hell of a lot richer and trying to get a hell of a lot richer and sharing everything about what it takes to get a hell of a lot richer, and that's working for them. They also get untethered and unlimited access to AI Jeremy with voice calls, video calls, and messaging. In addition to that, we have our Master Internet Marketing group, 7 weeks of live classes. You join in now, you get access to the previous cohorts recording, you get access to all future live cohorts that we ever do for the lifetime of the product, extensive homework libraries. Each one of those live classes is on a specific topic. They're about 3 to 5 hours in length. There's worksheets throughout it to help you with retention. And on top of all that, it's an incredible, very active community, and they also get access to AI Jeremy, but with limitations. Now, back to my point. I cover a lot of the trigger words inside of programs like that. Here, I'm not gonna give you the master list, okay? But I'll give you some examples. We had a client that was teaching people how to buy businesses, okay? And some of the words that we would commonly use as it related to this offer, we're talking to very specific income demographics. We would say things like, if you work a high-paying job and want to buy a business. We would use demographic terms like boomers are gonna die, somebody needs to take over their businesses, it should be you. It makes more sense to buy a business than build a business. And then we talk about numbers, okay? We talk about words like, as an example, seller financing. We would talk about words like W-2s. Okay? We would talk about terms as it related to just general business terms. Okay? We would talk about raising money. We would talk about how to leverage yourself into the deal. There's all kinds of little terms that we could look at in that example and say, that probably flagged it. Now here's the downside. When this first rolled out, this set of restrictions first rolled out, there were very obvious and evident workarounds to it, some of which there still are. I'm gonna give you one of those workarounds, but I need to explain this first. Back when it first rolled out, you could have gotten hit with this special ad category way back in December. But how it originally worked is different than how it works now. How it originally worked was it applied to the domain. So the domain would get restrictions. And what would happen is the data from your pixel, okay, like your standard events, they wouldn't get sent back to the pixel. So if you got hit with this originally for, as an example, the health and wellness category especially, because they were more worried about the HIPAA stuff on that side of things, they would just straight up cut off your pixel from receiving those standard events. And they were usually the farther down, more valuable standard events too, like schedule, submit application, purchase, things like that. The easiest workaround back then was just change the domain, dupe out the funnel, change the domain, boom, you're back in action. And it also seemed like back then, this is just a few months ago by the way, that you had a very long duration of time, an unknown duration of time at that, but a long duration of time before this tool that they created internally at Facebook would scan across every account they had again to try to recategorize and see who needed to be placed within this new special ad category again and receive those pixel restrictions. Okay, so you could just change the domain, and I mean, for almost every deal that we had or every student that we had that was dealing with those kinds of restrictions at the time, bang, you changed the domain, everything was problem solved. And there wasn't actually any duration of time that went by where that thing, whatever it was, that tool scanned everything again and reflagged all your stuff. That just never happened. So now, okay, literally at the time I filmed this video, we're in May. And that's around the time that all these new email notifications have gotten rolled out to people. Now it seems ad account specific, okay? I'm gonna blur out the ad account number here, but if you notice in the email itself, towards the bottom of the email, it talks about how the ad account is what is impacted. Not the domain, not the pixel, not the business manager, but the ad account itself. That's something you gotta be really attentive to, because that's what's gonna dictate what kind of workarounds are available to us now. So remember what I just said about the whole domain scanning thing. How does something get flagged in the first place for these special ad categories? Well, I don't think it's that hard to understand. They have some kind of tool that rolls across every single advertiser's account, audits it based on some type of words that a developer leveraged and flagged for this has got to be within that category. And they probably reach a little bit beyond the parameters, so they have some margin for safety there. So there's probably some people that shouldn't be in that category, thus why the appeal process needs to exist. And they're just going to immediately flag everybody. They saw all the workarounds, as there's always been workarounds for everything that they've ever done, for the domain stuff, and now they've applied it to the ad account. So the first thing that comes to mind for me is if it's no longer associated to the domain and it's not associated to the pixel, the page, or the business manager, wouldn't the most obvious workaround just to be to operate in a backup ad account? And this is what's actually really interesting. In the client that I talked about that we received one of those emails for, the buying businesses client, they only received the flag for one account within the business manager, and it was the main account that we spend the most money out of. We do proper risk mitigation strategies inside of our ad accounts that we operate with as a marketing agency, and one of those risk mitigation strategies is to always have multiple accounts running at the same time. Some of them with different pages, some of them with backup pixels, some of them in completely separate business managers. And none of the other ones got flagged, but all the other ones drive traffic to the same domains or varying degrees of the same pages on different domains. Why was the main account the only one that got flagged? Maybe it has to do with a certain amount of money spent. That's one thing that's always been interesting about Facebook, and any ad channel for that matter. They don't always flag you for things when you don't spend a lot. They do flag you for things and put you under a much, much tighter level of scrutiny when you spend a lot more money. So I then looked across all the other different students and client accounts that we have for people who got flagged, and I asked them the same thing. Or in the client account cases, we just looked. Did any of the other accounts get flagged? No. It was the same for everybody. The main account had gotten flagged. I then asked a question to everybody, and in our own accounts, we just looked. What was the spend threshold on a month-to-month basis that caused the flag? And it seemed to be right around the $50,000 a month mark. Give or take, there was a few of them that had a little bit less, like I'm talking thousands of dollars less, that still got the flag. But again, they had backup accounts that were running, that were at a smaller level of spend that did not get flagged. So I just want to be really clear on this. One of the most immediate workarounds to this current problem, in the instance that you don't want to use the DEI algorithm for the financial special ad category, and you just want to continue doing things as you're doing them now, would be to spend a little less across more more accounts. Because again, there seems to be a clear threshold where if you spend above a certain dollar amount, you could get flagged. But here's the other thing that you got to really keep in mind. Remember what I talked about for how it used to be. There was clearly some type of scan that had to occur across every ad account that Facebook has in order to apply it. And once the domain was changed, if it was an autonomous scan that happened every time that you launched an ad to a new domain, those accounts that just created new domains back in the day would have immediately gotten flagged with the restriction again, but they didn't. So what does that say? That says that that scan happened one time on a manual push and was not autonomously set up to continue scanning from that point forward every time you launch something new. My bet would be that it's the same thing here, that there are certain parameters in place that will flag it and mark your account as needing to move to the special ad category. And my bet is that this initial push was also just another manual scan. That's generally how Facebook works when they first roll almost anything out, especially something as big as this. They do a big manual push, and keep in mind, they operate at a scale that is just incomprehensibly hard to understand. They have so many advertisers, tens of millions. They claimed on their most recent earnings call that across all their platforms that they own, that they had 3.4 billion people use one of their apps, whether that be WhatsApp, Messenger, Instagram, a VR platform, or Facebook, in a month. 3.4 billion people. That's insane to comprehend. Think about the quantity of advertisers that there are. Think about the costs to hard code something into your platform and how much it would eat into your profitability. Think about how much money they're probable to lose as is by just moving all these advertisers into these special ad categories, both for health and wellness and the financial special ad category. It's a lot. It's a lot of hard costs, and it's a lot of potential dollars lost, and it's a lot of change. So again, my bet is this is a big manual push. My bet is the most immediate workaround, operate out of a secondary ad account, see if it gets flagged. The other thing that's really important to understand is just to adapt, right? A good example of this, like we have a video on this channel that we dedicated to what to do for best practices if your ad account got hit with the advantage audience targeting and the advantage detailed targeting and you didn't have an alternative to it. You just had to use it from that point forward. And we talked about all the best practices as it related to messaging and a lot of the other things inside of that specific video that you can go check out. This is no different. It's also important to understand, besides just knowing workarounds, what to do now if it is something that's just going to automatically flag your account, which eventually it's probable to be. In the short term, there's likely some workarounds like I just described due to the fact it's probable to be a manual push. But again, you have to understand this. Eventually, it's very probable to be something that does have an automatic flag, okay? Just like every other special ad category, okay? So when that occurs, what do? Right? Keep in mind, we have to understand how the algorithm works. So how does the algo work, okay? So historically, you have pixel data that's gonna heavily bias who the ads go towards. You have your standard event that is also gonna dictate who your ads go towards, okay? And that's still probable to be the case to a degree, but if this is the DEI equivalent of an algorithm, that means that we're also gonna reach a bunch of people that just don't really make that much sense to reach. So here's the thing, is Facebook going to dramatically alter their algorithm? Probably not. That means that there's probably some components to how the algorithm works that are still gonna apply to this specific special ad category algorithm. By the way, just on a more surface level explanation of this whole thing, that's all special ad categories are. They're just restrictions in the targeting options that you have available to you, and they are specifically programmed algorithms that tie into certain regulations to avoid Facebook being sued. That's it. So when we look at how this algorithm's probable to work, we have to assume that the pixel data is what is going to be impacted the most. Because keep in mind, if you understand from watching one of the videos on this channel about pixel conditioning as an example, that every time somebody comes back and hits the pixel, that's who the pixel becomes more and more probable to bias towards from that point forward. At first, the data that comes into it is rather slow, and it's using its prediction machine to determine who to go after next. But as soon as more and more data comes into the pixel, that immediately speeds up the probability of getting more results because the prediction machine is being reinforced with results, and it takes those people who are coming in as a result and it biases towards people who have similar data points to those who are converting. Pretty simple. However, if I'm in the financial special ad category, am I still likely to reach the people who are already converting? Am I gonna be able to leverage the pixel conditioning best practices? Probably not. That's what's more probable to be impacted out of this whole thing, okay? And that's really important to understand. That's also what makes Facebook special as a platform. That's what makes them as wealthy as they are as a company. They've got one of the best advertising algorithms that exists. That's why almost everybody sitting here watching this right now spends a majority of their ad dollars on that ad channel, is because it works the best. Here's the thing though, we still have the standard event optimization to consider. If we get the opportunity to optimize around schedule, purchase, submit application, even custom conversions, it's still probable to bias towards the people who come in as a result. But, and this is the biggest but, okay? We're likely to get an inflated cost per result, because historically, we're not gonna reach all these other people who aren't probable to convert. We're gonna reach the people who are probable to convert. So if I optimize around schedule as an example, those are the only people who are gonna see my ads. Nobody else is gonna see my ads. The people who are probable to convert on a different standard event, they just won't get shown the stuff, okay? Is that still probable to be the case? Yeah, I think so. I think the only difference is, okay, and this is really important you understand this, this initial subset of people who are probable to convert is who the advertising algorithm, the main one, biases towards first. I think the same thing's probable to be the case here in the special ad algorithm. However, keep in mind, once the pixel data starts rolling in, instead of biasing towards everybody that's probable to convert, it biases towards the people that are most probable to convert based on who just converted. That's the part that I think is very probable to change here. That's the part that you got to look out for. That's the part that's going to inflate your costs, okay? Now, I'm going to give you a workaround for this as well, okay? Because I think that this is really important you understand this, and I don't want to see anybody lose money. After all, I exist to help you get richer. That's what I'm here for, and that's why you're here watching me. So let me put you on some pro levels of game real quick. If historically, we're only going to reach this tiny little subset of folks who are all seeing our ads because people just like them have converted after seeing our ads, and now we lose that advantage, that just means that we're gonna have this whole little subset of folks here that are just probable to convert on the standard event in general. I think custom conversions become extremely valuable in that scenario. Standard events are the standard things that they give us the ability to optimize for. Think with purchase, schedule, submit application, even the ones that you probably never use like donate, search, things like this, app install. Okay? Custom conversions, on the other hand, what they're set up to do, well, I mean, yeah, you can technically, when you're setting up a custom conversion, select an option to pair it to a standard event. But when you go to create a custom conversion, there's a little category that says other. Okay? So when you go to create a custom conversion in the events manager and you name it and you type in the URL that you want it to trigger by, there's a little option. It's a drop-down box that lets Facebook either automatically pair it to a standard event that it thinks is most appropriate, or that you get to use the drop-down to manually pair it to. When you use that type of custom conversion, it's still the equivalent of essentially using a standard event, but just naming it something specific so it shows up in the results column and your events manager a specific way. But when you select the standard event category of other, that is when, and that is only when, it is a true custom conversion. Okay? This is mastery levels of game that I'm talking to you here. Don't let this part go over your head. This is super important. If you create the custom conversion, you select the little drop down for the standard event, and you select other, and you name it whatever you want, you put in the proper URLs, and you create it. That is going to be something that at first, let me be clear for how this works in terms of the implications. At first, it's gonna have no idea who the fuck to go after, okay? A lot of people don't understand how ads work. Keep in mind, when you use a standard event, just like I described above, you kind of get this category where it knows like, all right, don't go after anybody over here. These people aren't probable to convert. If this advertiser's selected schedule or purchase or whatever the standard event is, let's immediately just bias towards those people. Then it goes even deeper than that and it says, well, this advertiser is using this type of messaging. Let's bias towards these types of people specifically out of the subset of everybody that we could have targeted, okay? And that's what generally gets the right type of people through fast on the platforms. When you remove the standard event, what you're doing is you're opening up the whole spectrum of everybody out of who you've targeted to now become targetable, because now you're optimizing around a custom conversion, and on top of that, you've selected that custom conversion to not be linked to any standard event. You've set it to other, okay? So what happens? You might think that your ads are just gonna fucking willy-nilly reach literally everybody that there is to reach on this entire spectrum, but that's just not the case. That's never been the case. What's gonna happen is it reaches the people that the messaging seems to appeal most to. So the messaging is what becomes most important to dictate who it's probable to go after, okay? Now this is really important, okay? Again, bear with me, I'm still in the middle of the point, okay? If I create that custom conversion, I link it to other for the standard event. I go out there and I target people in the special ad category of financial in this case, that says formerly credit. And I am extremely precise with the messaging that I use. That is what's going to dictate who's most probable to come back and convert. And you pair that with the other most important thing, which is pixel conditioning best practices. I think you're going to have a really good time. I don't think that you're actually going to have a bad time at all. I don't think that this is going to impact you negatively. You know why? Because your boy over here has already been spending tens of thousands of dollars doing exactly this inside of that special ad category, and I haven't seen damn near any negative ramifications. I do want to openly disclose. In that little period where you get the email and your current normal advertising ads, regular algorithm, standard event optimized creatives are running, you immediately want to create a custom conversion that can start getting conditioned based on the qualified right people that are currently coming through. That way, when you switch to the special ad category and you optimize around a custom conversion that's not linked to any standard event, you already have a lot of data that's historically on that custom conversion. So it's immediately going to bias towards those right types of people as is, as with any kind of pixel conditioning best practices. If you get caught with your pants down here, and you don't have that little window, that's okay. You're just gonna have to really dig into the messaging side of things since you won't have the pixel conditioning side of things right away to leverage. You'll still get the pixel conditioning best practices, which is, remember, only letting the right people through to come back and hit that pixel. Okay? Now the messaging side of things, as I described, that's super important. And also what's super important is understanding the difference between YouTube and all my paid stuff. My paid stuff is where I will literally hold your hand and help you and answer your questions about whether your messaging is dialed in enough and compliant in this case to actually get in front of the right people and not flag things and get your account shut down from doing the circumventing policy stuff that we all know Facebook doesn't like and can get you in trouble. The thing with YouTube is I can give you this level of information. I put you on a lot of game in this video here today, but at the same time, there's still a lot of stuff that you got to understand about pixel conditioning, and there's a lot of stuff that you got to understand about messaging that I just don't cover at the depth that you need. If you're high IQ, if you feel like you got the right team in place to execute on this, which I hope you do, you can take all the stuff I've talked about here today and work your way to the point where you're still gonna get a phenomenal result. But keep in mind, the thing with all my paid stuff is you're not even necessarily just paying me for the extra info that I can cover. You're paying for the speed to result. So if you prefer to just go at it on your own and just try these things and, kind of shoot in the dark a bit, eventually you'll get one dart to land on the board, and that'll give you a lot of insight into what you need to do from that point forward. But you got to ask, how long is it going to take to get the dart on the board when you're shooting in the dark? I'll help shine the spotlight on that thing straight away and increase your probability of having that thing land faster. That's all it is. You're just buying speed when you check out the links down in the description. That's what I'm here for. Here to help you get richer and here to help you get there faster. That's the main outcomes that I want to help you with, in addition to an exuberant amount of information that I know you need to know, but you might not know you need to know yet, okay? Anyway, hope you enjoyed today's video. This one was a doozy, highly technical. Excuse me for having to go that deep, but it was necessary to help you with some of the workarounds and nuances about how this policy and how this new special ad category is going to impact you as an advertiser who's trying to scale up and go well above and beyond seven-figure months. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already. Go check out some of my other videos. They're all bangers. I'm sure you missed a few. And if you're new here, subscribe to the channel. I appreciate you. Go get richer.